Hi, welcome to Humanity, Human-Shaped Learning. I'm Scott.
I'm Sharla.
And we are, I think, one last episode here in my studio.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just been awesome.
It has been fun, except for the construction guys who are like dumping gravel right outside the window here.
But that gravel's coming for some pretty exciting
That's true.
things.
Yeah, they're doing some great work out here on some things. My project my parents are busy with, but these are the frustrations of a person who has a recording studio right next to where loud stuff happens. So it becomes, you have to kind of incorporate the dumping of the gravel into the song, which works in some songs,
Yeah.
doesn't work in others.
Right.
But you just kind of go with it, kind of
That's right.
improvise.
And you get to do your episode today.
This is my episode. Yeah, that's right. And it's a self-care episode. So, last time I did a self-care episode, I think I did a song of mine. I did.
Was that one on silence?
It was on silence. It was
I
really on
remember.
silence. It wasn't, but this one's actually on, well, it's kind of not. It's on the ideas in the song, I suppose. So anyway, so I am going to do a third thing with a song. Last time we did a recorded song. This time I'm going to stand up, pull a guitar off the wall, and do a song.
Awesome.
So hopefully I'll do it okay. It'll be okay.
It'll be great.
And and let's see. We're gonna pull Martin down. This is my
right.
Martin. Okay. So this song is one that I actually wrote on a retreat that we facilitated
Okay.
up in North Dakota
Okay.
a while back, and so we were. I don't know if you. Well, I'm sure you do actually recall. We were blizzarded in.
Oh, yes.
We were buried. We had planned to do some things. It was wintertime, but we had planned to do some activities kind of that would involve getting outside. But it was so blizzardy and windy and buryingly deep. That's not really a word, but
It was bad enough our car wouldn't start.
it
When
was.
it was over 40 below.
It was really cold. And so anyway, so we ended up doing more inside things with the participants than outside things. But one of my inside things was writing this song. So the song is called "The Promise of Being Filled," and we'll see if we can remember how it goes. It's a good start, huh? Okay, here we go.
Yes.
We'll pull the lyrics up on the screen for you. I should have practiced it. Okay. I think I know it now.
Okay.
Okay.
It's all good.
This is actually take 2.
You don't even have to tell him that.
Well, I figured it was going to show on my face.
Okay.
Take 2. This is called "The Promise of Being Filled." All alone is not alone anymore. Once you make peace with yourself, darkness is not a loss of sight, nor being empty a loss of wealth. This snowy hills will be emptied in the spring. This cutting wind fallen still. I will. White-knuckled hope Silence has a language no tongue could ever speak. Holds a wisdom gentle to the ears. All the chasing, all the grasping, all the noise, yeah, only awakens all the fear. These snowy hills will be empty in the spring. This cutting wind fallen still. I will relinquish this white-knuckled hold. Open up the promise of being filled. These snowy hills will be empty in the spring. This cutting wind fallen still. I will relinquish this white-knuckled hold. Open up the promise of being filled. As I relinquish this white-knuckled hold, I open up the promise of being filled.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. So, you know, the hills that we were in, which were down near Turtle Mountain, they were obviously all full of snow, and you know, and we were stressed. We were stressed about stuff. I mean, is the car going to start? Is it going to pile up so big we can't get back home? Is the heat going to continue to work in the building and all that stuff? And you know, so you find yourself clenching tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. But I think that's the problem. And so, you know, I think the song is really about when things are maybe not exactly the way I'd like. I think I could wrestle them over to the way I want them to be by gripping tighter. You know, that white-knuckled grip. Yeah. Grip it tighter and tighter and tighter and wrestle it over to what I want it to be. And at some point you realize, you know what, actually, letting go of it right now is probably what needs to happen. And trusting that that things ultimately will come around. I don't know.
They usually do.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, once you've lived as long as you and I have lived, we've probably experienced that enough, but I don't know that it changes the fact that sometimes I still want to hold on pretty tight.
Yeah, it makes it's hard, and it's hard to know when, you know, because I think obviously there are times when you need to grit your teeth and fight harder, you know. I mean, we use that term grit. You know, grit is like not giving up. It's like holding on and keeping. But then there comes this time when you have to realize, okay, am I really making progress, or am I just strangling whatever's left? You know.
You know, I would say, as an adult, one of the most common issues I have when it comes to figuring out what my role in something is, or as I'm trying to make a decision maybe, or trying to whatever it is, I always struggle with how much of it is mine that I need to be taken care of, and how much do I just let it be? What is my role in it?
Right.
Because sometimes we're pushed or tensed or whatever, caused to grab hold of something because we have a role to play in that.
Yeah.
And there's something that we need to do.
Sure.
But I think trusting that things will happen whether we do that or not,
Right.
that's the hard place to get to.
Well, and this is also that cyclical thing. There's a seasonal thing in there, knowing that spring is going to come back around, that it's not always going to be winter.
Right.
That summer will come again, and that things come around and they go, and you can't, there's certain things. That's another seasonal lesson. Certain things you have to let go of at certain times. You got to know when that is, because until you let go of this thing that's passing, you're not going to be ready to grab onto what's coming back around.
I also feel like when I've held on to something really tightly and kind of gotten there, like you said, by sort of wrestling it there, it doesn't feel the same as something that comes about naturally and happens as a result of maybe it's my own trust or trusting others, I guess, that that others will do their part, I'll do my part, and we'll be fine.
Right.
And there's something about when I haven't had to manhandle it to get there that makes things feel better, more real or something. That this is how it should be. This is the place we're supposed to be because it came about in a really natural and authentic way.
It's like the dumping of the gravel outside the window. Yeah. I could stomp out there and say, "Hey, don't you know we're shooting video in here?"
And they would say, "Nope."
They would say no. But instead, we just let it be. And if it happens during a recording of a song, then we incorporate the dumping of gravel into the song. We just go with it. I don't know. I'm being silly there, but really, there are, two fundamental ways to live life where you grab onto every single last little detail and you absolutely say it's got to be this way or else I've failed and I'm going to force it to be this way and nothing's going to stop me. And then there is hey, I'm going to do what I can do, and I'm in collaboration with a fundamentally graceful universe, a universe that's going to give me some gifts. Not all the gifts will I understand when I get them. In fact, some of them, like dumping of gravel, I may be frustrated with. But you know what? There may be something beautiful and wonderful in that. I think a lot of artists know that. Bob
Dylan?
Happy little tree Bob.
Oh, Bob Ross.
Bob Ross, thank you. Ross left my brain. If he made a mistake,
yeah, it's a happy little tree.
Turn into a happy little tree. Yeah, there are no mistakes. Well, okay, we're going to roll this kind of into our what we usually call our article, but it is more than an article. It is a book. Okay, I'm going to recommend this. I just finished reading this, and it had been recommended to me many, many times. And then a good friend called me and said, "Scott, have you read this? You got to read it. It's amazing." And so I did, and so it was. It was very good, very helpful, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. I'm going to put this up on the screen. This is called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and it is Toltec wisdom book. Don Miguel Ruiz is a doctor, but he's also kind of an inheritor of the wisdom tradition among the Toltec, which is traditionally in southern Mexico, indigenous nation there. And he has passed this on generationally, had it passed on to him. He learned from his mother and his grandfather and another mentor. And put these together, and what I like about it is they're relatively simple, and yet, like many things in indigenous cultures, they're simple in a very complex way. They get deeper and deeper as you come through. And as another element of indigenous culture, they're cyclical. You may roll through this. It's not like you check them off one at a time and then you're done. It's like you learn these lessons over and over again, like the seasons of the year. So we're going to take a look at these, what he calls the 4 agreements, and talk just a little bit about those. I may read a little segment out of the book. We'll pull these up on the screen for you, though, so you can see what we're talking about. So I'm going to pull from just a little piece from the jacket here that kind of gives an overview of each of these 4 agreements. So we'll read through each one of these. The first agreement: be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So, when you look at that, be impeccable with your word, it's easy to say, well, just be truthful. But what he's getting at really is being really aware of what you're using your words for. He goes into a long discussion about the power and the magic of words to do amazingly wonderful things and to do horrifically harmful things. And I think we see that, every day. Words that come out, whether it's in social media or on the news or just person to person, the capacity for words to do amazingly wonderful things or to do horrible things, to make a mark that stays with someone for a long, long time.
That makes me think of types of people too. There are people, and I'll say I'm one of them, who tend to just talk it out. They're wrestling with something, and rather than really thinking through every word, maybe talk through the process. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but the words mean something different then when you're using them to work it through. Where I think of my husband, who will think through everything before he says it. And so those words, when he finally says it, are very important, and they're very chosen.
Yeah.
And that's a gift, I think.
Yeah.
And people like that who have really processed and thought through something before just blurting something out.
Yeah.
They're really important in our world.
And I think this agreement is about that kind of awareness. And it's an awareness, he reminds us, it's not just an awareness of what my words do to others, but what they do also to me. And he goes into some, inner talk as well, that dialogue we have within ourselves, and the capacity for that dialogue, even within me, to take me in a really bad direction or to take me in a wonderful growth direction. And so working on that as one of the agreements. And the word agreements he uses, he has a whole introduction that, and it's really connected with words, that he suggests that part of what we do, and we've all had some difficult thing happen to us. Someone said something when we were young and it made a mark, and boy, we just spent the next 10 years, grappling with it, and it turns into something difficult and ugly. The way he describes that is we have the capacity to make agreements. And if someone says, man, you are weird looking, if I agree with that, when I take that in and I say, yeah, I guess I'm really weird looking, I've made an agreement with that. And we carry those agreements with us, and they work on us. And so part of it is becoming aware of what agreements we've made, At some point, somebody told me I was dumb, and I've been struggling to prove them wrong the rest of my life because really I kind of agreed with them. And so becoming aware is a big piece of that first one.
Yes.
The second agreement, don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think about how often somebody says something, and rather than, and we talk about this, one of the touchstones in the courage work, turn to wonder. How often do I, instead of saying, I wonder why she thinks that, I wonder why he came to that conclusion, instead, I take it personally. I go, well, what's he saying about me? Who am I? What am I? And suddenly it's all about me.
Yeah.
Rather than about them and their understanding and what they're grappling with.
Right.
And coming out of their story and their experience.
I would think that's very common
Yeah.
to be that way. I say that too because that's something I struggle with. What was my role in that, and should I have done something differently? And actually, it's all, each of us make choices out of who we are.
Right.
Not necessarily because someone else
Right.
said or did something.
And it's not to say that I don't take something someone else says seriously. I think taking something someone else says seriously is a valuable thing, and maybe even saying what's in that for me to learn. But taking it personally is a little different. It puts me in that place of being defensive.
Yeah.
And then that in turn puts me back into language that's harmful to me and harmful to you, and because I may haul off with some 4-letter word and
No.
do some damage to you and do some damage to myself. So the third agreement, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. So, and that kind of goes along with the taking things personally, because when I take it personally, suddenly I will make assumptions about you, or I'll act on an assumption that I have about you rather than simply asking, finding out the reality. I operate under all these assumptions.
And you know what assuming does.
Oh, I do, because I thought, what movie was that first came out? I don't remember what that is.
We should give credit where credit is due,
Yeah,
but I don't remember.
That was an old movie back in the day when I was a kid.
It's so true, though. Those assumptions, I think it's more prevalent now than ever when it comes to our politics.
Oh, yeah.
I think of a person says a word, whatever politically charged word it is. And I'll use one that's very charged, abortion. Where you stand on that, or how you see that, or however that word sits with you.
Right.
When you share that out loud, anyone near you is going to make a lot of assumptions about where you are.
Right.
And it's one issue, but it leads to what they must think religiously, what they must think politically, what they must think about rights, and all sorts of things. And those are all assumptions made from one
Right.
topic.
It also, making assumptions circumvents us actually communicating.
Yes.
It cuts it off. Why would I need to talk with you? I already know who you are based on the one word you just said.
Yep.
And suddenly we're not communicating at all. We're just acting on our imagined assumptions about each other.
Right. And I just feel like that is probably one of the big issues right now with maybe like social media and places where we put out an opinion or we say something and we aren't there to talk about it, to actually explain fully what we're thinking. And so whoever reads it then makes a lot of assumptions.
Yeah.
And it's their only chance to really hear anything. And then they kind of look and see what your friends say and all of that. And pretty soon I've made, after doing that, an assumption about you that may be very far from the truth. because I haven't actually talked to you about it.
Right. That's precisely why I don't put political or religious bumper stickers on my car. It begs people to make assumptions.
Yes.
You know? And if somebody makes an assumption, they don't talk to me. They don't say, well, who was it you voted for and why? But they just look at some bumper sticker on my car. Well, they're going to key my car.
Yeah.
And I don't want that.
Right.
You know, I don't want that kind of, anyway.
I
Let's
hear
look at the last one, the last agreement. Always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Now, here's the key thing on this one. When someone says, do your best, always do your best, that sounds like, oh, I can never do that. My best is never going to be good enough. What he is saying here is do your best and be okay with that. If you woke up feeling like garbage this morning because you ate something bad the night before and you're feeling kind of yucky, well, your best may not be as good as it will be on a day when you're, running 100%. And you got to be okay with that. And that goes for your mental state, your emotional state, Do the best you can do and know that you did that. And then be okay with it and say, hey, if it wasn't quite good enough today to do whatever, maybe it will be tomorrow. I'll work on that. But I'm gonna be fine with what I did today because I know I did the best I could do.
I think that's an area where I know for me as a mom, that's something that comes in all the time. As a mom, you feel like you got to do everything just right, especially when my kids were younger and at home.
Yeah.
I may come home not feeling from work or something
Right.
and not feel very good and snap at my kids or, their rooms aren't cleaned and
Yeah.
the dishes or whatever. And later that evening, then I feel horrible because I have snapped and reacted and not been kind. And the reality is that may have been my best in that moment.
Well, I know that right now, and I've talked about this in recent episodes, that I'm a grandfather. My oldest daughter, is now raising her son, and she calls, talks with us, and worries about, did we do this right? Did we do that right? Did we make a mistake over here on that? Is this a mistake? Or is that going to be a problem? And you know what? The best thing that I can do is to say, you know what? I made so many mistakes with you, and you turned out just awesome. And that's not to say, go ahead and make all the mistakes you want. No, do your best, but know that you are going to make a mistake. There are going to be days when you didn't quite, knock it out of the park, and that's all right. Your kid's going to be okay. We are resilient, and as long as they know that you love them and that you're doing your best, it's going to be all right.
And that your actions are coming from a place of love.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And when I hear you talk about these 4 agreements, they really all are, it's more than self-care, it's self-love. It's being in a place where you see yourself in a really good way.
Right.
That you can forgive yourself for the mistakes you make. You can improve. You can do a variety of things, really. I mean, when I think about if I were able to do all 4 of those agreements well, it really would be transformative for me as a human being.
For me, and this is the reason I picked this first, and then I decided to do the song. The song in my mind, is all about that white-knuckled hold on trying to get it all right, white-knuckled hold. All of these things allow me to loosen that grip. It's not that I'm not going to do my best anymore. I'm going to do my best, but I'm going to also know that my best some days will be better than others. I'm not making the assumptions that cause me to be scared to death that if I let go, it's all going to fall apart. I'm not taking everything personally. And I know that my language to myself and to others is going to be something that comes out of love and support, and not something that's just going to tear us down. We've got to recover from the last sentence I said. Well, that's not good. Well, give us some verbiage that we don't have to recover from, Sharla. I think you picked out the quote for this episode.
I did.
I'll pull it up on the screen here. I believe I can find it. Oh, there we go.
We've talked about this before. We don't share these quotes with each other ahead of time, and I don't know what you're going to talk about ahead of time.
But you knew it would involve coffee.
Yeah. Actually, I chose this because of something I know about you, which is how much you like to spend time alone.
I do.
So my quote today comes from Karen Samuelson, and I actually don't know who that is, but I really liked her quote. Sometimes I like to be alone and do absolutely nothing. I'm not antisocial. I'm just pro me.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I think doing absolutely nothing sometimes is the best thing you can do, because the white knuckles cause us to feel like if we stop doing, we're gonna die. But let it be.
Yes.
Let it be. That's beautiful.
Be pro me.
That's
you.
right. Pro me. That's great. And I love the sloth. That's a sloth, right?
Yes, it is.
It's a sloth
I
with
love
coffee.
sloths, too.
That seems like that would cause a problem. A sloth drinking a lot of caffeine. That might be, what do sloths do when they're on?
Oxymoron. Yeah, and also just it'll probably be cold by the time he gets it to his mouth.
That's right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode, and that was really good. That was really terrific. Thank you. I'm gonna go do nothing for a little while.
All right. I thought you'd like that.
You guys go do nothing. Okay.
All right.
We'll see you
Thanks.
later.